Hey guys, Madiateur here, back with a brand new series for you. In this series, I'll be teaching you a variety of skills and techniques for C# as well as 3D modeling and design for Unity. In this first episode, we'll be taking a look at making a notification system with base implementation. Through this, we'll be doing it via UI, Unity's built-in UI system with buttons. When you click a button, notification text. Let's get into it. Cut all this. Okay, so now that we're in Unity, what we're going to do is we're going to create a canvas. Once you've created the canvas, you're going to put it in 2D mode, and we're going to zoom out to change some settings on the canvas here. So go over to the UI scale mode, change it to scale with screen size, and set it to match height. I'm going to change my target resolution to 1920 by 1080. You can set it to your preferred native screen size. Once in the canvas, I'm going to create an empty game object and call this notification panel. You can name this whatever you want. This is going to control the activity, is active, is not active, etc. Here I'm just shaping it to the desired size. You can as well just shape it to the size that works for you. After you're satisfied with it, we're going to go ahead and add a Text Mesh Pro to the canvas under the notification panel and scale it to the size that you would like. I'm going to change the alignment to center for both justifications and auto size so that it scales based on the text. Here I'm just going to write a default text input. I'll call it default notification. And just going to change the vertex color here, nice red to stand out from the background, and give it a little bit of an outline so that it doesn't blend as much with the background and stands out a bit more as a notification should. Once you have that set up, head on back over to the canvas, and we're going to create a C# script. I named this notification UI. You can name it whichever you prefer. Heading over into the notification UI C# script, we're going to need to include Unity engine.audio, and we're going to need to include Text Mesh Pro. Now I'm going to start adding my public variables. Here you're going to want to add a public game object, and this is that parent that we created earlier, that empty game object. Next, we're going to add a audio clip. This is what you will set from inside the editor to be the notification sound. Next, I'm going to make a region for the private variables. Here we will add our Text Mesh Pro U GUI for graphical user interface, and we'll call it text. This is going to reference the text on our notification. Next, you're going to make a list of strings. We'll simply call this Q. Next, we'll add a few wait for seconds. This one will be wait time, our time to wait in between our notifications. We'll rename it to notification time, however, we are still going to add a wait for seconds wait time. We're going to add a boolean to track if it is active, called bool is active. Great, now that we have our variables done, let's start creating the functionality. Now we need to populate some of these private variables. Set the text to the return value of the getComponentInChildren for the parent of a Text Mesh Pro, because it is a child of that game object. We can easily retrieve it with the getComponentInChildren function. The queue, we're simply going to instantiate it as a new list that is empty. Here I went back and I added an audio source because I realized I'm going to need that later on if I want to play some audio. Here we're going to instantiate our wait for seconds. So the first one is the notification time of 5.0 float, and the second one of wait time is in wait for seconds of 1.0 float. In my head, what I had here was 5 seconds in between notifications in the queue and a 1 second buffer in between popping them on. Now we're going to instantiate the audio source by getting the component of audio source from the canvas. Here we're going to set the clip for the audio clip to our editor defined audio clip. Under update, we're going to check if our queue count is not 0, which means that our queue count is not empty. We have a notification in the queue. We're also going to check if it is active, which we are going to track to see if we are currently displaying a notification on the screen. So if we have notifications in the queue and we currently don't have a notification on the screen, put one on the screen. Here I very exclaimed coroutine to try and get across the point that we need to use coroutines to make this function smoothly. To do this, we're going to make an enumerator. I simply named this play notification, and it doesn't need to take in any variables. Currently we have an error, but that is because you need to yield some form of a return from an enumerator for it to function. Here I'm simply going to make the parent true. So when the notification is being played, we are going to make everything visible, and our control variable is active. We're going to make that true as well, so that we don't play 2 notifications at the same time. Then I'm going to add a yield return for our notification time. What this means is for 5 seconds, this coroutine, which runs alongside of all our other code, will pause for that allotted time. This is very important because if we were simply just doing a void statement, we wouldn't be able to pause it like this while our other code is still running. So next what we need to do is we need to change the text to our notification text. How we can do this is by using our text variable that we defined earlier. So we'll say text.text to access, it's a bit confusing, I should have picked a better name, but to access the text of that text mesh pro. We're going to get the first string in the queue and populate it. Basically what this is doing is taking the first string in our list here of our queue. We're going to set the text mesh pro's text equal to that every time we play a notification. So now that we have changed the text and made everything visible, we will need to, now that the timer has finished, undo everything that we've done. So we're going to set the activity for the parent to false, which will hide every child of it. And then we are going to set isActive to false, which will allow us to pop another notification from the queue into this. So here's where our wait time comes into play, is we have a buffer. We set it by default to 1 second, and we're going to yield return wait time. What this does is it allows notifications to not completely bombard the player if there's some stacked up in the queue. So now we can go under our checker here and we can call our coroutine. So we can say start coroutine and call play notification enumerator. Great. So now if we have any notifications in the queue and we are currently not playing one, we'll play one. Now we need a way to add the notification, so we're going to make a public void and call it whatever you want. I called it add notification to queue. It will need to take in a string. Quite simply, we can just say queue.add notification and it'll populate the queue with this new notification. So now, because we have added notifications, we need to remove them from the queue after we start undoing all of our visibility. So quite simply, you can just say queue remove the first sentence in the queue. And quite simply, that's how you take the first off and then remove it after. Now coming back to the editor, we need to populate our script variables, the public variables there. So you're gonna drag notification panel into the parent so that we can have access to the children that way. And you're going to add an audio source so that it can properly populate the audio source and play audio via the audio source. You'll need to create a mixer. Here I created one and I just called it master as an output channel for the audio. And under output, you'll just select your new master channel. Here I imported something from a recent project of mine, fireworks.wav. It's just a simple firework noise as a notification to catch your attention. I will drag this under audio clip for the notification, so it will set the audio clip of the audio source to it. Heading back in, I realized there was a little bit of a confliction, so I renamed audio to audio source, so there was no confliction. Then what I did after was I went down and just changed every reference to the audio source component. and just renamed them so everything flowed. Now what we'll do is we'll add a button. I just called this test. You can make it whatever size and shape you want. I quite simply just set it to the default knob that comes with the Unity UI package, just to give it a little bit more of a circular button look. Here I set the text to just notification so that we can spawn a new notification on the screen. Now we need to add some functionality so that when you click the button, it actually does something and spawns a notification. What we're going to do for that is we are going to create a new C# script. For this, I just named this test notification. Back in Visual Studio, we can add some basic functionality to this button. So let's populate some public variables. We will need a public notification UI, which is a reference to our notification system that we've just created. Then we will need a public string of the notification we want to play and that we want to pass in to the notification system. This can be changed if you desire it to be done a certain way. I'll show that later. We're going to make a public void on button pressed. This will be called by our button when we click it under the UI. And quite simply, all we need to do is say notification system.add notification to queue, notification, and we are all set to go. Heading back into the editor, we're going to give the test notification behavior script to the button, and we will drag the notification, we will drag the canvas into the notification system to populate it. Then we will drag the button into the on-click functionality, and we will give it a notification. I'll just write this is a default notification. So then we will hide the parent so that we can test if it works. We will need to go back to the button and actually give it functionality. We need to point to the function that we just created. That was something I brushed over before. So you'll grab the test notification behavior on button pressed. So now when we play and you click the notification button, we get our notification on screen. This can be used with a bunch of different use cases as well. It doesn't need to be a button that calls it. So no matter what the sentence that you pass in, this is test 1, 2, 3, that works. Anything that you pass in live at compile runtime will work as well. So how we use this is we have the add notification to queue function under the notification system that we added before. There's a bunch of different ways that you could actually use this add notification besides a button. So you could do something, let's say if you had a leveling system. If the player reaches a certain level, you could call it simply this way. You could create your notification. We already have one, so we're just going to call it call notification and set the text to player leveled up. And then, quite simply, what you could do is call the exact same function and pass in that notification wherever their level is managed. So if you have like a stat manager, you could call it in there when a level up is triggered. That is how we make a very simple notification system in Unity. As we went over at the end there, there's a lot of different use cases. If you want in the future, I can explore that on the channel and go further in depth of different use cases for a notification system similar to this. Thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to see more tutorials, and don't forget to drop some comments below about what you thought of the video, what you think I could change, do better, what I did worse, that kind of stuff, and let me know what you want to see in the next tutorial. Catch y'all next time. Peace out.